Hello, BookTube. And welcome to another MegaStuff video. Once again, this is a video where I have a whole bunch of little bits and pieces, including my favorite little bit. My favorite little bit and piece that don't really make a video on their own. Instead, we're sort of, I'm sort of lumping them together into one video. What do you think of that as a plan? Do you like that as a plan? She's not belching this time. She earlier today, a little bit ago, she approached me and wanting to go outside, wanting to go for a walk, and my answer is always yes, of course, because I deprive her of that freedom. She's not free to come and go as she pleases. So if she wants to go out, we go out, even if it's just a whim. And ordinarily I say yes, and then I wrap up whatever I'm doing, no more than a minute, and that's okay with her. To just, you know, now that she knows that I'm listening, and she knows that my answer is yes, so she's not pushy about it. Except when she is. Every once in a while she'll be pushy about it, where she'll ask to go outside, and then she'll ask again, and then she'll keep asking while I'm winding stuff up. And this is a dog who is easily capable of going without urinating for 12 or 15 hours, so it's never that. Now, I have learned over the course of knowing her what it is, and it is always that rain is coming. And she wants to get it. I don't know how. Maybe she smells it. That feeling of moist earth smell in the air that happens right before rain. Maybe she smells it on the wind or whatever, or senses something with low pressure, or one way or another. I've learned that when she is insistent, it means that we have time to get out, go for a walk, and get back inside before it rains. And sure enough, a gentle rain is falling now. It's no big deal. I've had dogs that wouldn't have even thought that it was raining. They were happy to go out in all terrains, but this dog hates even the slightest suspicion of rain. So, but in addition to my dog, I also have babies for our MegaStuff video. I have another crop of babies. I put out the call for pictures of your Shakespeare, because September is the month of Shake-Tube. And I suggested that perhaps you include pictures of your dogs along with your Shakespeare, and a number of you have indulged me. And also, pictures have flowed in of dogs just in general, even when Shakespeare is not in the frame, and inevitably, people sent me pictures of their cats. Look at that thing. Look at this. Isn't that cute? Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. I'm sure that when it was moving and during this picture, when this picture was being taken, it was rock solid still, waiting for you to make a mistake. There, this cat is licking at a water fountain, probably having worked up a thirst by killing something innocent. And here's this particular viewer added insult to injury by having their cat rest their head on the back cover of From Holmes to Sherlock. And you can't really make it out here, but the thing the cat is resting its head on is my named blurb on the back of the paperback. Very dirty pool. And this cat doesn't appear to be interested. This isn't Shakespeare, and it doesn't appear to be interested at all. Just sort of laying there. But it wasn't all cats. I want to point out, it wasn't all cats. Like, for instance, look at this face. And also, one of you actually played by the rules and sent me pictures of dogs with Shakespeare, which is the whole point of this thing. Look at that. A lot of you will recognize that. That's 2-volume Shakespeare from the Great Books library shelf. Remember those? And here's another one. This is a perfect example of dogs just asking their perennial question, what the hell is wrong with you? What are you doing? And then every once in a while you get a dog who doesn't ask that question because they're simply ready for their close-up. Or you just go around and pose with your dogs with Shakespeare. That is wonderful, wonderfully dorky. So that was the baby parade. I have no updates on my male boy, my male teen, my male dream. I haven't seen him recently. And I also don't have any updates. A couple of you were asking this. I have a new bookcase in this room that is now in between the bed and the closet. I closed the closet door, so there's a wall there now. And I have a bookcase, and I have decided that I'm not going to move books onto that bookcase from elsewhere. I've been finding a lot of bookcases lately, 3 in rapid succession, and as a result, there's no critical overstressing except in this room, so I don't have to move anything onto this thing right away. So I'm going to leave it empty. I've made a decision to see how long it will take to fill that bookcase with keepers. Just curious to know. That's all. So, but there's been no progress on it whatsoever. There is a shelf down below. The bottom shelf of the bookcase is actually exactly equal with the box spring of the bed. So the books that are down there are not going to be on display. I'm going to know they're there, and I'll be able to get to them, but they won't be easy to reach. And I know what I'm going to do there. I'm going to put hardcover graphic novels down there. There's a stack of them out in the other room that is blocking a lot of... It's the log in the log jam that needs to come out. And I like hardcover graphic novels, but I don't consult them that often. I have some that I look at more than others, and they won't go down there. But I have some that I don't want to get rid of. Because when the mood is on you, then you want them to be there. But they don't have to be... They can be down there on that bottom shelf. That's the only thing I'm going to fill. I'm going to leave all the other shelves empty and fill them gradually over time. But we also have some mail. I have a periodical, the Martha's Vineyard Gazette, which is an old-style broadsheet newspaper. Where the Martha's Vineyard Gazette is one of the newspapers on the island of Martha's Vineyard off the coast of Massachusetts, and I am a book reviewer for the Martha's Vineyard Gazette, very happily so. And the Gazette is always wonderful. It is a fantastic small-town newspaper. Fantastic original photography. That's the thing that it doesn't get enough credit for. Is that the vineyard is full of people who take great photos, and there's some in every single issue. And then you get local stories. The vineyard, of course, is struggling with what to do about the pandemic. They're an island, and you know that has the potential to go south really quickly. And everybody, all the powers that be on the island, know that. So there are articles all the time about what precautions the island is taking. And then you also have, in the middle of the Gazette, oh, I just got this in the mail today, you always have a large selection of obituaries. This is a local newspaper, so there will be pictures and then just a 2-page spread of... Okay, well, there'll be a 2-page spread of obituaries. And one is Shirley Mayhew. There's Shirley. Wow. Shirley Mayhew died. She was an institution on the vineyard. A longtime West Tisbury resident, writer, teacher, naturalist, and traveler. Died in her home at West Tisbury at the age of 94. I reviewed her last book just last year. Wow. Okay, well, that's the risk you run, right? I mean, if I remember, I'll leave a link to my review of her book. But then you have the middle section, and the middle section of the paper is the editorials, the letters to the editor, that sort of thing. This is where I would ordinarily be if I had a review. I don't have a review in this issue. And then the highlight, I suspect, for a lot of Vineyard Gazette readers is the nature reports in the back. There are 3 columns. One is birds, one is all of the outdoors, and one is the Vineyard Gardener. And they are institutions. I imagine that I'm not the only person who reads the Vineyard Gazette from the back to the front. Because a lot of people like to start right at the back. And then I have a box. Sorry, I'm a little bit thrown. Shirley was 90s. She was in her 90s. She was 94 when she died, so I'll get over it. And talk about a full life. It's just a little odd, that's all. I'll try to remember to leave a link to my review of her book. And then we have this book, and then we'll be done. Because we only have one. We only have one book package. It's a finished copy. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. Okay, this is by Peter Manzo, an author who is well known to me. Let's see what he... okay, well, he lives in Annapolis, Maryland, but they don't have a picture of him. It's a little odd. Anyway, this I'm looking forward to this. This is from Princeton University Press. This comes out at the end of June, or at the end of September. This is the Jefferson Bible, a biography of the Jefferson Bible. As part of a series, right? This is a series that Princeton is doing about texts. I feel certain that's the case. Yeah, The Lives of Great Religious Books. That's the name of the series, and this is the latest one, the Jefferson Bible. August marks the 200th anniversary of the completion of one of Thomas Jefferson's retirement projects, using a penknife to eliminate all the miracles from the New Testament and glue together the remainder as a guide to living. The result of which was the Jefferson Bible. He cut out all of the supernatural stuff. In the Jefferson Bible, Peter Manzo, a Smithsonian curator and author of a number of well-received books, gives you a full story of the creation and legacy up to the present day. Completed in 1820 and rediscovered by chance in the late 19th century after being lost for decades, Jefferson's cut-and-paste scripture has meant different things to different people. Some have held it up as evidence that America is a Christian nation founded on the lessons of the gospel, and those people are simply delusional. They're simply delusional, or not delusional, they're ignorant. They don't know what they're talking about. They haven't read the writings of Franklin or either of the Adamses or John Hancock. They certainly haven't given any kind of thought to the implications of the very existence of something called the Jefferson Bible. Why would you go to the bother of cutting up the New Testament to remove the supernatural stuff if you were a theist? It's kind of ridiculous. It really is. I heard one person the other day. Who was it? It wasn't that long ago. It was just a few days ago where I heard somebody say that Thomas Paine was not an atheist, that he just didn't like religion, organized religion, didn't like the abuses of organized religion. Oh, it was Glenn Beck, the absurd conspiracy theorist radio or television host Glenn Beck. He actually said that, said he could prove it with documentation. Anyway, others see it as proof of the founder's intent to root out the stubborn influence of faith and ideals and ideas that inspired him to radically revise the Gospels. Or no, did I skip something? Yeah, the stubborn influences of faith. Okay, Manzo explains Jefferson's personal religion and philosophy, shedding light on the influences and ideas that inspired him to radically revise the Gospels. He situates the creation of the Jefferson Bible within the broader search for the historical Jesus and examines the book's role in American religious disputes over the interpretation of Scripture. The author describes the intrigue surrounding the loss and rediscovery of the Jefferson Bible and traces it to its remarkable reception history, from its first planned printing in 1904 for members of Congress to its persistent power to provoke and enlighten us today. And it will be, it will touch on the historical Jesus. It can't help. Those two subjects go hand in hand. And I've lost count of how many religious people I've talked to who don't even know that there is a debate about the historical Jesus. They're perfectly willing, some of them, the more broad-minded of them, are perfectly willing to cede to me, in argument, that maybe there might be some question about the veracity of Noah's Ark, of Noah's flood. That maybe there might be some stretch of the imagination as to why two mated pairs of great red kangaroos fetched up on Mount Ararat in the Middle East, but somehow managed to hop all the way to Australia without leaving any progeny or skeletons behind the whole time. And once they got to an Australia that had been underwater for a year, what, pray tell, did they eat? Mountains of sea salt? So every once in a while, a broad-minded, believing fundamentalist Christian, the American kind, will say to me, well, I might grant you that. We could talk about that, about some of that might be metaphorical, but what do you mean? Jesus didn't exist. We have eyewitness testimony. And I have to be the one to tell them the Gospels are not eyewitness testimony. And they don't agree on anything, even if they were. And there is nothing else. There is nothing else. There is not one single pottery shard or diary entry or letter of any kind, nothing, not even a piece of graffiti on a bathroom wall. There is no contemporary evidence outside of religious documents whose goals and aims ought to be obvious. There's no evidence outside of that religious tradition that any specific person named Jesus actually existed. None. You could say, well, but you can't toss out the documents that are in the New Testament? I most certainly can. I most certainly can. They are the most scrutinized documents in the world. And who has done the most scrutinizing of them? A gigantic multi-sesquillion-dollar operation called the church. The church has had sole possession and archival access to these things for 2,000 years. So I very much do throw out that you have to show me a letter from a wealthy merchant to his wife. I was in Palestine. You wouldn't believe what I saw. A gigantic crowd, and at the heart of it, a man named Jesus. You have to show me something like that. You can't use an obviously forged interpolation in Josephus. You can't use a mention in Tacitus that talks about a group or a movement. I'm talking about a man. I'm talking about the individual person. And there isn't anything. And typically speaking, I mean, I'm all for anecdotal tradition and whatnot, and I'm perfectly willing not to be doctrinaire about this. But I'm perfectly willing to be conversational about it. But if we're talking about the standards of history, and for a figure in history, the only verification that you have that they actually lived and existed and walked on the earth is anecdotal and folklore, which is the kindest way to refer to a massive body of explicitly religious documents about that person. If that's all you have, typically speaking, history says that person didn't exist. All I want for I have fun conversations sometimes. I know right now about 5 or 6 fundamentalist Christians, and by that I mean Christians who believe the Bible is literally true, that the earth is 6,000 years old, that the creation happened in 6 24-hour days, that sort of thing. And believe it or not, we get along just fine. We mostly talk about books, which is a kind of universal language. If you love to read, if you've been transported by a book in the modern day, when Massachusetts was first founded, the religious zealots that founded Massachusetts didn't allow you to read anything else. You read the Bible, and that was it. That made conversation much harder. But with people today, there's the Bible, yes. There's religion, yes. And these friends that I have, they love a good dust-up. Love it. They love it. Believe it or not, you wouldn't think it, but they absolutely love it when I go at them on these subjects. It used to be in more civilized times. Before the plague, the conversations would happen over wine, and they got louder and more animated. And I remember years and years ago, one of those conversations on a back porch, where one of the young people involved, I think it was the nephew of one of my friends, was actually worried that violence was going to break out. And one of the women on the porch, I think my friend's sister, had to say to him, "Oh no, the louder it gets, the more fun they're having. They wouldn't ruin this by taking a swing at each other at all." And they used to love it when I would go at them on this, and I think the reason they did is a point that has been made on BookTube before by Jason Harrigan at Byways in Brooklyn, where he said, "You can feel free to criticize my religion all you like. My religion is a set of documents, it's a set of principles, it's a history on earth of the actions of men and women, good and bad. But you can't criticize, you can't knock my faith. My faith is my own, and it has nothing to do with you. It's not affected by anything that you do." People who are secure in their faith know perfectly well the fun of going at the historical Jesus, and I have gone around the block with those friends about where they would bring up every argument under the sun. No, didn't Paul talk to his brothers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's a lot of fun, and it was. I guarantee, to bring it back to this poor ignored book, I guarantee it was on Jefferson's mind. He knew a lot of, had a lot of those arguments. And the reason that he'd had a lot of those arguments is because the United States was most certainly 100% not founded as a Christian nation. Most certainly 100% not. One of the most animating resolves of the Founding Fathers was for this not to be a religious country in its founding. People can do whatever they want, but not in the government, not in the documents, not in the country itself as an organized social principle. It was one of the foremost things in their mind, which is why Jefferson would keep in mind how valuable books were. And also a much smaller aside, but also worth noticing is, remembering anyway, is that in retirement, Jefferson's hands hurt like crazy. It was hard for him to hold a spoon to feed himself, much less the fine work of using a knife, a penknife, to cut out passages from a book, a very valuable book. He did it anyway. But anyway, I can't, in other words, I can't wait to read this book. It's late September that it comes out, but we're plenty early enough for me to read it now. It's a tiny thing, so it won't take any time at all. And naturally, I'm wondering if Peter Manzo would be willing to talk about this in a Zoom conversation. Naturally, I am. Now that I've mentioned this a couple of times now, I have cracked the Zoom technology, and I like it. I like the experience of it. I think I will get better and more handy at it as time goes on, and I'd like, therefore, to talk to everybody with a pulse. I'd like that, certainly every author, but every booktuber as well. Just a question of which of them like me and which of them don't. Who knows? I will certainly ask, and I won't take no's personally. But now that's naturally on my mind. And boy, oh boy, not to be Debbie Downer, it got in me. It got in amongst me, as P.G. Woodhouse would say. It would have been terrific to have a nice, long, rambling, wool-gathering conversation with Shirley Mayhew about her travels. You would have loved her. Absolutely loved her. Oh well. Still plenty of other fish in the sea, as she would have said. So I'm going to wrap this up. That is your wool gathering for Thursday. Or not wool gathering. Oh, no, that's Charlie Heathcote. Another person I want to have a Zoom chat with. Charlie Heathcote, one of our authors in residence on BookTube. But no, that's my MegaStuff video for Thursday. There may be more mail today. But I won't. If I get a couple of packages, I won't get any more than that. If I get a couple of packages, I'll just fold them into tomorrow's MegaStuff video. I don't need to hop on the camera and make a video for every new update. So I'll wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.